Hi, welcome to Oscar's Green Card. My name is Marina, and as you probably know, we are not lawyers. We created this channel to discuss merit-based self-petition green cards like EB-2 NIW or EB-1A, in which you can apply without a job offer or a lawyer. The material we share in this channel and in our websites, including oscargreencard.com and in our specialized courses, is based on Oscar personal experience, the official USCIS information, and the insights from our audience and clients. And precisely today, we have a special guest, Elijah, who will tell us about his success story in the EB-2 NIW. As a polymer coating scientist, he filed his own NIW but received an RFE. He then found our RFE course, enrolled, and responded to USCIS, eventually receiving the I-140 approval. In this conversation with Oscar, he presents the key lessons he got from the course and how he applied them to his case. Keep in mind that we had a few technical issues during the call, and the quality of Elijah's image will fluctuate. Enjoy!
Elijah, welcome to the channel.
Hi, Oscar. Hi, everybody. Yeah, glad to be here. Thank you for the stage. Really appreciate the opportunity to speak here.
Yeah, no, thank you, because you reached out to me, to us, and you shared the good news that you had been approved, and you actually volunteered to share information for the course and also come here and talk to the YouTube audience. So it's so valuable for everyone. So thank you, and congratulations, by the way.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Oscar. And it's actually my pleasure being here because I really wanted to, that conversation is kind of a kudos to you for putting together that wonderful RFE course. And to everybody out there, I just want to say that no matter how disheartening receiving the RFE might be, I think you would really benefit from taking Oscar's course because it taught me a wealth of knowledge, and this is what I really want to share with you guys. Just take the course, and you would see immediate difference in what material you put out there to USCIS.
Well, thank you, and so let's start with just a very brief introduction about who you are professionally. Very brief, because I'm sure as we go through your petition and RFE, we'll learn a lot about you. So who are you professionally? Where do you come from? What do you want to share about you?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I call myself a professional immigrant. I was born and raised in Russia, and I immigrated to Canada about 6, 7 years ago, and now me and my family, we have decided to make a move to the United States. Professionally, I stand in the field of chemical sciences, more precisely polymer sciences. I'm a coatings engineer. My job currently is to engineer coating formulas that are protective, either anti-corrosive or anti-fouling coatings. When you look at the ship, somewhere, wherever you go to the port, you might see that they're coated with a specific paint, and this paint is anti-fouling. The job of this paint is to deter the organisms from fouling the ship's hull. Why? Because the biofouling generates a lot of drag for the ships, and from drag comes overconsumption of fuel. So my job is to generate those coatings which are not only anti-fouling, but they're also eco-friendly. That means those coatings do not leach cuprous oxides, which are really something that major companies are using right now in such coatings. So in general, these coatings are environmentally friendly, and I'm a coatings PhD scientist, actually. So this is why I decided that, yes, I would have a good chance at putting together a good solid petition for EB-2 NIW, which I did. And then unfortunately, I was not following Oscar's advice, although I was following your content for more than a year. After receiving an RFE, I decided that I only had maybe one solid shot at improving things, and this is what led me to your RFE course. And gosh, I actually learned so much. My initial filing and my RFE response were day and night.
And you submitted your original one in April, and then
Yes,
in June you received that
yes.
RFE. So what went through your mind when you got the RFE? Were you expecting it based on the situation that we are living in, with things getting more complicated, or was it a surprise for you?
Yeah, it was definitely something that I did expect with Donald Trump, and you covered in your videos. The approval rates are kind of going down right now, and RFEs are on the rise. So, of
Mhm.
course, we all want things to go really nicely and smoothly, but I was mentally prepared to receive an RFE. I was not prepared to receive a pretty harsh RFE, the one that I did get. And
Mm.
I, maybe advancing on your question, received an RFE that touched on all three prongs. And even the prong one, all sub prongs were affected. So I was like, wow, this is
Yeah.
harsh. But they're
Yeah.
giving me the
Yeah.
second chance, so I need to do things differently.
So then you got the RFE, you joined the course, you started working on your response, and you had all those three prongs really to tackle. So in general, how did you strategize? How did you go about, okay, I'm going to figure this out and I'm going to respond in the best way possible?
So first of all, it's taking the course, right, and
Mm-hmm.
listening to it as many times as possible. And
Mm-hmm.
as an advice to everybody, just whenever as you're going through your write-up, just chime into the course one more time, one extra time, because you'll find something interesting that will connect pieces together. Second of all, I decided to write a couple more reference letters, request
Mm-hmm.
a couple more letters from somebody that I knew, but someone
Mm-hmm.
who I have never worked with. So somebody objectively referencing my work.
Yeah.
I got two more letters. And this time, despite the first time, I was more focused on the national interest. I asked
Mm-hmm.
them to be more specific as to what aspects of my work
Mm-hmm.
are really important for the
Yeah.
petitioning. I reached out to my previous employer and I asked
Mm-hmm.
him to testify how the inventions that I
Mm-hmm.
co-invented were really advancing my proposed endeavor, not just my profession. The
Mm-hmm.
fourth thing was to change the mindset and really not being egocentric, but be more focused on what good, what worth I could bring to the United States. So this was something that I did one time. It was too much of, me being full of myself. And the second time, it was more about the reviewer, making
Yeah.
them have a good life, as you as you
Yeah.
mentioned in your course, and about the
Yeah.
United States, really thinking about the public, really thinking about bettering the well-being and the economy, the
Yeah.
security,
Yeah.
after
What,
all,
what
of the
we
United States
call
as a whole.
broader impacts, right? I think that's really the key word. And I think by reading your response, you put a lot of emphasis on explaining the officer what is the good you're going to bring beyond your day to day. What can you do to change the discipline, to change the sector, to impact people's life, to do all those things that you talked at the beginning, sustainability, economy, and all those things, right?
Yeah, so there's two components to that actually. First thing was try and find those beats in the outer space that really validate your work, which I did. I found three more papers, to my surprise, actually, that did talk about my work. I was like, wow, that's
Yeah.
actually cool. I had no idea somebody referenced my work. They got issued right before my filing date, which really
Mm.
enabled me using that as an additional evidence. And the second component was to, really writing that proposed endeavor statement that you really recommend. And I really recommend to everyone, guys, don't ignore that. That's a really
Mhm.
helpful vehicle. Another helpful vehicle to convey your thought and your value is to
Yeah.
craft a good professional plan, which I did. And I shared it with you as well, Oscar.
Yeah.
And you
And
probably
it's
saw
very comprehensive.
how I was, yes, and you provided in your course, you provided a link to a third party that does craft very professional ones. I went to their website, and again,
Mhm.
just being like a professional immigrant, I decided I'm going to do things myself, which look very much
Good.
alike. So I crafted a
Mhm.
nice and shiny document, and I even broke down my proposal in a case scenario. Okay, let's make
Mhm.
some billions of dollars for the United States, just on paper for now. But what it
Mhm.
does for the officer, it really shows that maybe it may not be billions of dollars, but at least you have the proposed, ETA, the timeline, and the methods to make
Right.
that happen. It could be
Yeah.
500 millions of dollars, but at least you have the plan. So
Mhm.
yeah, guys, just go out there and have the professional plan.
Regarding your professional plan and your proposed endeavor statement, so in your original petition, there was no plan at all. You only had like a brief explanation, or how was the situation?
I think I completely got oblivious of that, or I had a statement as a separate document, which was only a 2-pager, and it was very brief. And I think it was just a very, how to say that, a half-assed document, like just very formal. And it did not explain a whole lot of detail about how I would approach my mission. Whereas in my RFE filing, I really crafted a risk plan. There was a section that told the officer, how am I different from somebody who is average in the field? There was a like a document reference section, and there was a case scenario. There were actually 3 plans. There was a 3-year, 6-year, and 12-year plan. And it's a really nice document because you can reference this document throughout the entire write-up. And that's, I think, something that I really learned hard from your course. Have a professional plan.
Yeah, and you also showed some progress, even in Pro number 1 and in that plan. While you are explaining what you want to do and what you are going to do in the US, you also show some pieces of things that you have done, and that helps you to project the future impact. And I think that's really important, and I really loved how you did it in your response.
I recommend to everyone that you really apply your experience, no matter how profound or minuscule it is, to what you're actually going to do in the United States. Not the United States in general, but to your specific mission. My other mistake was that my proposed endeavor was very vague initially. There were actually 2 proposed endeavors, and this is something that you advocate against right away in your course. So I had one very well-crafted proposed endeavor, and I was backing up that proposed endeavor very specifically. And as you saw from my filing, there were a lot of subsections, something that was really missing in my initial filing. So I encourage everyone to have as many kind of subchapters and headings as possible, because as you teach in your course, this really streamlined for the reviewer, because that shows them in the headings what are they going to be focusing their attention on. And they might skip something, they might give it more attention, but it really makes it so much easier for them. So
exactly.
Probably a couple more things.
Yeah, it's all, like you said, it's all about making his or her life easy. And so you had those titles that are self-descriptive that I'm looking at one right now. I'm going to talk about the economic part of the endeavor, or I'm going to talk about the taking care of the environment because we are replacing dangerous chemicals or whatever it is. And then one thing that I love that you should brag about is how you provided your narrative, and you have 2 key parts in each of the sections for Pro number 1. One is how I will advance the proposed endeavor, where you bring some details from the professional plan, and then broad impact. So you have like 2 subsections that I thought they were beautiful.
Yes, exactly. Because this was my last chance, I thought I'm gonna give it all in this time. So in the national interest, I had actually 5 components to the national interest, like 5 prongs, call them, that were kind of nailing down the value for the United States. I had those 2 sections, the immediate impact and how it will be done. So guys, you would have, please try to do it in this way, because then the officer would just have no chance but to approve you, because you basically cover each and every question for them. And if in case, it's my opinion, if they may not agree with you fully, they would at least see your advocacy, and they would at least see your train of thoughts and how you propose to tackle the mission. Yes, some things might be arguable, but at least you put out the advocacy for yourself there. So don't hold it back. This is really your last chance. Throw everything you have.
One more thing that you did very well is being specific and not vague. I have a page in front of me. You have those 2 sections, how I will advance. It has like 4 key points explaining to the officer exactly what you're going to do with numbers. I'm going to develop this number of prototypes. I'm going to do this and that with this many ships. And then in the impact, you also provide really quantifiable things like my effort. I'm going to read one just for people to understand. My effort would facilitate the construction and modernization of at least 1,100 vessels per year based on a conservative 10% market share capture by year 12. So you really did your work of, okay, I'm going to provide projections, but they are going to be based on something. Then you also have your trajectory that gives you credibility in front of the officer.
Yeah, big time, Oscar. And I think that circles back to the comment I made previously, which is having one good specific proposed endeavor. I chose a whole new suite of national importance documents that I was citing. Actually, Donald Trump, however we might like him or not, he came out there before the cameras in April, and he said we need to revitalize the shipbuilding industry in the United States. If you might think of the United States as a big country which has a huge fleet, it's not really the case. There's only about 40,000 ships, which is surprising for a huge country like that. And this is what the president of the United States was talking about, is to bring the shipbuilding industry back. So this really provided me an aha moment and a stage for kind of building my case, because my experience was really kind of layering into the situation really well. So I encourage everybody to, and you talk about that in your course, to look out at the environment. Where is your experience really going to help? Because chances high, if you're listening to Oscar's materials, you definitely see yourself worthy, and it's really your job to analyze what the United States really need. This is something I did not do in my initial filing. Okay. I just thought that I'm important and I'm good. I threw a bunch of materials there, and hoping that the officer would analyze and decide that I'm really good and worthy for the United States.
But also because usually, and maybe it was your case, you were probably thinking about this more in terms of prong number 2, which is I'm going to talk about my credentials and not so much about the problem. And NIW prong 1 is so important that you have to identify the problem and you have to make the officer believe that you can be the one solving or helping to solve the problem, which is, I think, what you did here in the response very effectively.
And it definitely helps to bring numbers, as you mentioned in your course. And I encourage everybody to, first of all, craft a professional plan, because that is what provides you the numbers. It makes it so effortless to really populate the prong number 1 with those numbers and projectiles. You wouldn't believe how helpful the professional plan is, and this is probably one of the biggest takeaways from the course. And dollar values are really important, so I would encourage everyone to kind of be more commercial in your mindset while writing up.
And was prong number 1 the core of your focus? I know you had to deal with the other 2, which we can discuss briefly now, but my perception is that usually is the number 1 issue and the one that takes more effort. Was it like that for you, that you have to spend more time on this?
Yes, definitely. And I follow your advice for the proposed endeavor statement. And again, I encourage everyone to have that. And as you mentioned in your course, this is really central, because this is the very first piece that the officer looks at. It sets the stage for you, really. It kind of provides the right lighting and the right angle. If you can get the officer to look through that prism at your entire write-up, that would really put them, it's my thought, it would really help them to kind of focus their attention the right way. So that was a big takeaway, I think, for me as well.
If they start reading and they don't understand what the hell you do, there's very little chance that things will go well for you. So you have to think that way.
Yes, absolutely. Just one last comment, Oscar. I think my mistake initially was that I was a little too heavy on ChatGPT and AI devices in helping.
Yeah, and you mentioned that you stopped that, right?
Yes. Guys, everybody, stop doing that. I think it's just making the text too generic. This time, I wrote everything by myself. I was honest. Any mistakes, any misused words, it doesn't matter. As authentic as you may sound, do it. Just show your best self while writing.
I can tell you that I have been reviewing petitions for a while now, and I got at the moment where AI was starting to be used, and it was terrible. It was like the quality of the petitions went downhill. And the worst thing is that the confidence of people increased because they think that it is so good. And a lot of times it's not, because people don't know how to use it, and then they let AI take control of the document. So yeah, you can use it for maybe corrections and things like that, but like you did, rely on your own words, because they're going to be more concise, direct, and informed, especially.
Your write-up should be a little bit more emotionally charged, because you're conveying your story. You're not like writing up, I know it's a legal procedure, petitioning, but you still need to, hit some emotional sides of the reviewing process, because this is your life story, this is your life mission. So what better way to do that but to be genuine and honest, no matter how which misused words you might use. So yeah, again,
Exactly.
I encourage everyone to just rely on themselves, believe in themselves. If I did it, you could do it too.
Yeah.
My 2 cents on that.
And I like what you said. It's not exactly a legal document, even though it is. So I would add, it's also not an academic document, which is another mistake that a lot of people do, especially we PhDs that have published things and stuff like that, and we want to sound super smart, and you have to take it to a level where it's not that technical, which I think you did in your text as well. So prong number 2 is about your credentials. It also failed in the initial filing, which it was probably unfair. I don't know what you did in your original filing, but it's probably unfair based on your credentials as I see them now, but maybe it's also a matter of how to present them. So what was your strategy in the response to highlight, and what were the main things that you used?
So the strategy was really to, again, piggyback on the first prong. Why? Because as you progress through the prong number 1, you will see what exactly is good about you. It's about really highlighting your strengths in prong number 2. And this is something that I did not really pay close attention to during my initial filing. I just dumped a bunch of things like papers and patents that I had and some reference letters, and hoping that somebody would make a good job of analyzing how well I'm positioned. Wrong, because it's really your job to be being very specific and showing which exact pieces from your resume really apply to that specific case, not your profession in general. So again, there's one red line that should be going through the entire, RFE response in this case, is which exact work experiences and achievements of yours are really helping to advance that specific endeavor. And this is where I think a lot of people, same with myself, are failing. And what I did differently this time was, again, I cut off the crap, so to speak. You can cut this out, but I cut out the papers which were not related to my endeavor, and unfortunately, vast majority of those papers were not. However, I had about 5 magazine papers. They're not peer reviewed, but I still reached out to journals and I got those metrics, which I did not do the first time. And the RFE specifically complained that my patents were kind of just floating around. They were not bringing any value. Fine. I went to my previous employer and I asked him to bring in some contracts that did cite those specific patents. So that was clear to the reviewer that, yes, these specific inventions are bringing value. They are monetized. So this was different. And again, same as with prong number 1. Just use as many subheadings and subsections as possible, because they really raster and pixelate it for the reviewer and make it that graspable for them to digest that material. Because imagine yourself being a reviewer. You've been thrown at a lot of factual material, and where do you start? Just either just going to skip the whole section altogether, because they don't have
you don't want to mix a lot of things. You want to have everything organized so you can help that person instead of making it chaotic.
Yes, you also recommended not being too, lengthy and braggy about your education, which I was not this time. I was really focusing on broader impact. I brought in like 3 more papers that, as I mentioned, cited my work. And one of those papers, and you mentioned that in your course, was a solid evidence that backs up your proposed endeavor. I was very lucky and fortunate to actually have that conference publication that where they have applied the paint on one of their propellers on the ship, and they reported that, yes, guys, we have increased the energy efficiency. Wow, what a coincidence. This is something that I'm citing in my proposed endeavor. So that was the third piece of improvement
So it's
in my
not,
strategy.
I think if I have to distill what you just said, is don't treat prong number 2 as a checklist. It's about selecting what really matters and highlight the quality of it, which is how you impacted others. How is your work being used? And you are not, it's not luck. You're not lucky. You have done a lot of things. You have patents, you have inventions, you have publications. So you look at which ones are the key here that can allow me to show this person that I have impact.
Exactly. And I wanted to add one last thing here, Oscar. I think it's really important to kind of write both prongs in synergy to one another, because it really is different when you're talking about yourself from perspective of how will I potentially achieve what I'm claiming? How have I already advanced this field? And this is what I did, because I did have experience of successfully delivering those paint formulas that were reducing the biofouling and that were reducing the toxic emissions and CO2 emissions in the environment. So why not put this forward, which was something that I did. And that little change changes the whole narrative, because now you're not, talking about something abstract. You're really talking about how you have already advanced your endeavor.
You have
So
started already. You have progress.
exactly. And you mentioned this in your course. So this is why I tell to everyone, just listen to the course several more times, because this was not something that I got at the very beginning, but then that kind of drew my attention to it. And I think that this speaks volumes, honestly. Those little details, they really change the narrative in your response.
I agree that people should listen to the course, because sometimes they don't. But one thing I liked about your case after I'm reading your text is, like, of course you took some learnings from the course, you apply them, but you apply them for your specific case. You adjusted the learnings from the course to your case, which is exactly what people should do. We are not holding hands. I was not there with you writing. You were applying the teachings that you thought they were valuable to your case. One thing that I loved is that you had a table at the beginning of your response where you highlighted some criticism from the officer, and then you provided a brief counter to it. And then throughout the response, you dealt with those things as well, but you had it there well summarized. You took it from the course, but you made it your own, and you made it better, I think, the execution of it.
I did. And this was not something that I have picked up from your course actually the first time. But then when I have re-listened, and by the way, guys, I think using tables in your write-up is a good idea, because that really structures the message. And yes, that's correct, Oscar. To each and every objection, I have provided a comment in a specific column, which said, hey, please go to this and that chapter. This is where you would find my response to your objection. And that, again, that together with the proposed endeavor statement really streamlines the attention of the officer. It just also shows how diligent you are with approaching their time, because that shows to the officer that you think about their time. You're trying to make that a very efficient interaction. So that already by itself paints you in a really right way, in a good light in front of the officer.
You took their comments seriously. You took them seriously, and you are helping them to find the counter to the comments. So at the end, you are being really nice to them. People shouldn't see it as, oh well, but they're going to feel attacked or anything like that. No, you do it politely and directly, and I think they should value that.
And this was in your course. Again, this was in your course. I actually picked it up from your content. I think props up to you, Oscar. Really, really good advice. 100%.
Yeah. So anything else about prong number 2?
You should not be too afraid of having your publications in not peer-reviewed journals. It really, that was my kind of point of being complexed and perplexed about that. I thought, well, it's not really scientific, but as long as you can show the broadness of impact, let's say there were 2,000 views of one of my papers, it's good. That will work for the officer.
And you were telling them, look, this was downloaded this many times, this was viewed this many times.
And it doesn't take long to get that information, really. And yeah, I think that summarizes. And I think if you can show as well something that I did not do the first time, how you increase in your salary incrementally, that was another thing that kind of reflects your value for that specific endeavor. Yeah, don't hold back on that, guys. Use that as well. That's definitely valuable.
Those are awesome tips. what about prong number 3? Is there? I know that we usually don't really discuss it too much. It's like the culmination of everything else. Did you do anything special there? Anything to highlight, or you just follow more or less the course teachings there?
I know, and you teach this in your course, this is something that's always overlooked, but it's still nevertheless very important because it's on balance. This is telling the officer why should they waive the labor certification. And the first time, that was really something very generic that I put together in a couple of pages. As you saw from my response, there were probably 3 to 4 pages, and again, probably 4 to 5 little sub chapters. So again, if you can break down your narrative into sub chapters, that just shows how deliberate you are in your narration. I implemented 2 new points. The first one is that, and I'm actually lucky to have that in my endeavor. The United States has proposed a deadline for reaching that net non-toxic goal in those anti-fouling coatings that I'm engineering right now. And frankly, I did not know that the first time I was filing. It took me receiving an RFE to actually research in that area a little better. So this was the first thing that I said, hey guys, if you do not hire me, you might miss out on somebody who's really talented and who could deliver under those constrained timelines.
There's some sense of urgency.
Again, yes, sense of urgency. And the second one, I don't know how valid that is, but to me it was valid. Well, from what I've learned after applying to several professional opportunities in the United States, for those DoD or military sponsored projects, they really you really need to be a resident or a citizen. And I was pretty clear in both my professional plan and in my pro number 1 that I would need to collaborate with military, most probably because the majority of the fleet is military. And I had to mention that being a permanent resident is really a key factor here for me being able to secure financing and being collaborative with the government bodies. So that kind of automatically really puts you in the right position, telling the officer that, hey, he really needs a green card here. So that's pretty simplistic. It's on the surface.
One very important thing here is that it's how you framed it. It's not that you need to give me the green card because I need the job. It's like because you need me to work for these things and solve this problem. So it's like always looking at the needs of the country, not your own personal ones.
Exactly. And you could probably see that from my RFE filing. And that circles back to being not egocentric, but more holistic, being more centered around the interests of the United States as a whole. It's really shown to the officer that it would be really beneficial for the United States to have me. I mean, you can pass on me, but then you might lose the talent. So it's not really demanding. It's really offering the values. There's a big difference between those 2 approaches, I think.
And luckily that that on balance also worked because we're here talking about the approval. So how was the moment where you learned about the positive news? Where were you and what crossed your mind when you got the approval?
Yeah, it's always so funny. Sometimes we learn about those news in really interesting environments. We were actually traveling to Dominican Republic for a vacation with my family, and we were crossing the passport control there at the airport. And I just looked at my phone. I saw the email, which was very familiar to me already. And at first, everything just froze inside of me because, I thought this is the moment of truth. And it was probably 41 days after. And it's 45 days for the premium processing. And I thought to myself, they probably put me at the very back of the line because they probably already saw my case not being very important. So I was mentally already preparing myself for hearing some bad news. But then after I read the first 2 lines, I was like, that's fantastic. I just showed the snapshot of my wife while she was speaking with the officer. She turned her head. She looked at the email and then she smiled. After passing the passport line, we shouted at each other like, "Yeah, we did it, baby!" Green light. Now we just need to wait for a couple more years.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
it's pretty emotional, of course, and I really want everybody else to have that emotional moment. I'm pretty sure your course is really a great vehicle for that. So thank you, Oscar, again. Tremendous value.
Yeah, I hope more and more people can get there and get to the next stage where you're going to go soon, which is wait for the Visa Bulletin, and then in your case you're abroad, do the consular processing and move to the US. Well, before closing, I don't know if there's anything else that you want to share. I think we covered a lot of things, but just in case.
Well, I just wish everyone a good luck. I think that I really like speaking with you, Oscar, because that gives me an opportunity to say hi to everybody in the community. I think we are very like-minded people because we would like to, handle things our own way and get our destiny into our own hands. I think if I was able to do that, and I don't consider my initial filing very strong, honestly, you could do that too. It's just a matter of being really diligent, very honest with yourself. I was honest with myself because for me, it was a very last chance. And I really desperately wanted that to come through successfully and really applying the teachings. I think they're really working. I just made a list while preparing for this call with you, Oscar. I made a list of what went wrong and how I did things differently. And the section of how I did things differently after listening to your course was probably 25 points. And that was just amazing to me to see. I've improved so much. And I think using resources like of yours, Oscar, is really just a gift of heavens, honestly. I think it offers a tremendous value. So I encourage everyone to, to take that course if you ever, God forbid, find yourself in those shoes. That happens. As Oscar mentions in this course, it's most RFEs are pretty generic. They are also view things positively, guys, because this is a second chance they're offering you.
Like you said, you have to be diligent. You have to do things right, and hopefully the person on the other side is more or less reasonable, and you can convince them.
Yeah, this is why you want to take Oscar's course. Don't take it to the NIW, guys.
Don't say it so many times because then people will think that I hired an actor.
Not really, no. But it was really helpful. This is why I wanted to highlight what was so useful to me. Because honestly, I don't think I would have done it without your course. Because they only give you 3 months of time.
Yeah.
And if you would do things the very same way you did the first time, I mean, chances high you're probably just going to get an OID or a rejection note. So, yeah, this course really helps you do things much, much differently.
Maybe efficiently to be organized.
And efficiently, yes.
Yeah, well, Elijah, thank you so much for your kind words and especially for the time. We had a few technical issues during this call and it took longer than it should. So thank you so much. And this will be super helpful. We are also going to use some of your learnings to update the course because we do update the courses on an ongoing basis. So thank you also for that and best of luck in what's coming next because you have a solid plan for your career in the US.
Yeah, thank you, Oscar. Cheers to everyone from Halifax, Nova Scotia. We'll talk to you soon, hopefully, Oscar. Yeah.
All right. Take care.
Okay.
Right.
Bye.